The tribe wants you to fit in. It wants you to need its approval, its validation, its sense of belonging. But imagine this. You're sitting in a coffee shop, not checking your phone, not craving likes or attention, just existing on your own terms. Why does that make people uneasy? What's so threatening about someone who doesn't play by the rules of constant connection? Here's the paradox. Society claims to admire independence, but when someone truly needs nothing from others, he's seen as a problem. Why is that? If you've ever felt like you see the world differently, like you don't quite belong, this channel is for you. Like the video, subscribe, and keep exploring what it means to live on your own terms. Society fears those who need nothing because they disrupt the foundation everything else is built on. The world runs on networks of dependency, work, relationships, politics, even the way you check your phone in the morning. Every system around you assumes you need something from someone else. Even Marcus Aurelius, an emperor with absolute power, felt that pull. He used solitude as a shield, a way to resist the constant demand for connection and approval. That's how deep this need runs. You see it everywhere. Algorithms hook you on approval, likes, shares, comments, engineering a cycle where your self-worth is tied to what others think. Advertisers prey on your insecurities, convincing you that happiness is just one purchase away. The message is always the same: you're not enough on your own. As long as you look outside yourself for validation, you're easy to manage. But the person who refuses to play along, the one who doesn't need the dopamine hit or the latest trend, breaks the cycle. He doesn't just ignore the rules, he makes his own. Nietzsche called this the struggle against the tribe. The tribe doesn't just want you to fit in, it needs you to. Most people conform not because they're convinced, but because standing alone feels risky. When someone steps outside, choosing self-reliance over groupthink, it's a direct challenge to the structure that keeps everyone in line. The tribe reacts with hostility, but it's fear disguised as unity. Look at how dependency shows up in every part of life. Consumerism isn't just about buying things, it's about buying into an identity. The economy depends on you needing more stuff, more status, more validation. Social hierarchies work the same way. Jobs demand loyalty, families set expectations, and every group wants you to think and act a certain way. These dependencies keep the machine running. The moment you stop needing the system, you stop serving it. That's what terrifies those in power, a person who decides he's not a cog anymore. Imagine someone who truly needs nothing. He doesn't care about likes or approval. He isn't shaped by his boss's demands or his family's expectations. As the research notes, he can't be silenced by social pressure or bought with popularity. This independence makes him unpredictable, and unpredictability is the enemy of control. How do you manipulate someone who's immune to shame or flattery? You can't. That's why he stands out as a threat. There's a contradiction at the heart of how society treats independence. We claim to admire it. Think of all the stories about heroes who stand alone, the praise for self-made success. But in practice, when someone lives out real independence, he's called selfish or cold, even antisocial. Independence is celebrated in theory, but punished in reality. The system wants you to stay just independent enough to feel special, but never so independent that you stop playing your part. The truth is, someone who doesn't need the system can't be controlled by it. He refuses to be labeled, boxed in, or regulated. He creates his own way of living. And that's what makes him dangerous. Once you don't need the approval of others, their influence disappears. That's not just rebellion, it's a form of power that the system can't tolerate. But the real danger isn't just for the system. It's what this kind of independence sparks in other people. When you see someone who's truly free, it plants a question in your mind. If he can do it, why can't I? The idea spreads. It challenges the comfort of dependency and forces people to reconsider the rules they've always followed. The independent person doesn't just walk away from the game, he makes others wonder why they're playing at all. That's why society fears those who need nothing. It's not about selfishness or being antisocial. It's about the ripple effect. Independence exposes the illusion that you need the system to survive, and once you see that, you can't go back. The real threat is the possibility that more people will wake up to it. But there's a crucial distinction that often gets lost. Society is quick to confuse independence with isolation, to treat solitude as if it's the same as loneliness. The truth is, they couldn't be more different. So what separates the person who's alone from the one who's lonely? And why does that difference matter so much? There's a line most people never cross, and it's the line between loneliness and solitude. Society blurs that line on purpose. Loneliness is a state of lack, a gnawing sense that something's missing, that you need someone or something to complete you. Solitude, though, is the opposite. It's a sense of wholeness. It's what happens when you can sit with yourself in silence and not feel the urge to fill the space with noise or distraction. That's the difference that matters, and it's the difference society wants you to ignore. Because if you can't tell them apart, you'll always be looking outside yourself for the answer. Lonely people are easy to predict. They chase connection, approval, and validation, hoping to fill that emptiness. That's where society steps in. Algorithms keep you hooked on the dopamine hits of validation, likes, shares, comments. You scroll, you engage, you react, all to avoid that sense of being alone. The lonelier you feel, the more you buy, the more you follow, the more you obey. You become a perfect consumer, always looking for something to make you feel whole, but never finding it. That's not an accident. The system thrives on your hunger, but solitude is something else. It's not about running from emptiness. It's about realizing you're already enough. The solitary person doesn't need the world's applause. He doesn't measure his worth by what others think or say. When you stop chasing validation, you notice the patterns. You see how distractions are designed to keep you dependent, how the noise drowns out your own thoughts. That's where real clarity begins. Marcus Aurelius understood this better than most. Despite being the most powerful man in Rome, he ended each day in solitude, writing and reflecting on his thoughts. He didn't fill his nights with parties or distractions. He faced his mind head-on. That nightly practice turned solitude into strength. It wasn't about running from the world, but about understanding himself without interference. That's the kind of solitude society fears, the kind that produces independent thinkers. Now look at how the modern world fights against solitude. You're surrounded by noise, notifications, podcasts, endless content. Even when you're physically alone, you're rarely mentally alone. Silence feels uncomfortable, so you fill it. But that discomfort is where growth happens. When you finally sit with your own thoughts, you're forced to confront your fears, your insecurities, your failures. Most people run from this, but the ones who don't come out stronger. Solitude isn't a void. It's a space you create for yourself, a space where you can grow, reflect, and build real self-respect. When you're not desperate for approval, you're harder to manipulate. You see through the games, the advertising, the social pressure. You're not chasing the latest trend or trying to fit in. You're building something solid that no one else can touch. That's what makes solitude dangerous. It produces people who can't be controlled. Think back to the hardest moments in your life. The times when you grew the most weren't the easy ones. Growth comes from discomfort. Solitude forces you to face yourself without escape. It's uncomfortable at first, but on the other side of that discomfort is a kind of peace that most people never experience. Not the fake peace you get from distractions, but the real thing. Knowing who you are when the noise stops. Society will always try to sell you the idea that being alone is a problem. Lonely people buy more, follow more, and do what they're told. Solitude, on the other hand, isn't for sale. It's earned. It's for those willing to face themselves, to break away from the constant stream of distractions, and to find strength in their own company. That's why it's misunderstood and even feared. Solitude doesn't make you cold or distant. It makes you unshakable. People sense it, even if they can't explain it. Independence is rare, and anything rare is valuable. So if loneliness weakens us and solitude empowers us, what are the exact principles that turn alone time into unstoppable strength? We'll break them down next. Strength in solitude doesn't come from just being alone. It comes from knowing how to use that time to build something most people never will: real independence. There are 4 principles that make solitude dangerous in the best way: radical self-honesty, value independence, emotional self-sufficiency, and intellectual courage. These aren't just abstract ideas. They are the foundation for a life that can't be controlled by outside forces. And make no mistake, society is built to keep you from mastering them. Every one of these principles is a step away from the approval addiction and conformity that keep you manageable. Start with radical self-honesty. Most people lie to themselves every day about what they want, what they fear, and why they do what they do. It's easy to blame circumstances or other people for your problems. But the truth is, every time you hide from your real motives, you give up power. Marcus Aurelius understood this. He spent his evenings writing down his thoughts, examining his own weaknesses and motivations. He knew that facing the truth about yourself is the only way to avoid being manipulated by others. All cruelty springs from weakness, he wrote, and the real strength is in exposing your own vulnerabilities, not hiding them. Radical self-honesty means stripping away every illusion about who you are and what drives you. You stop chasing success just to impress others. You stop following rules that don't make sense for your life. When you know your true motives, you can't be easily swayed or fooled. The second principle is value independence. Most people inherit their sense of right and wrong from the world around them. They follow the rules, chase the goals, and live by the codes they never chose. Nietzsche saw the danger in this herd mentality. He argued that the truly dangerous person is the one who creates their own values instead of inheriting them. This is not about rejecting morality or breaking rules for the sake of it. It's about choosing your principles based on your own reason and experience, not just because they're popular or safe. The moment you start living by values you've built, not borrowed, you become unpredictable. You stop being a cog in the machine. You can't be shamed or guilted into compliance because your sense of right and wrong comes from within. That's what makes you dangerous to any system built on conformity. Emotional self-sufficiency is the third principle, and it's the one society works hardest to prevent. From the time you're a child, you're taught to look outside yourself for reassurance and validation. Everything from school grades to social media trains you to crave approval. But when you learn to regulate your own emotions, you stop being easy to control. You don't need someone else to tell you you're enough. You don't break down when you're criticized. You don't chase after validation because you know your worth. Marcus Aurelius called this having power over your own mind. When you are emotionally self-sufficient, you become your own source of peace and confidence. You're less vulnerable to manipulation, and you stop reacting to the ups and downs of other people's opinions. That's rare, and it's powerful. It means you live on your terms, not as a reaction to what others think. The fourth principle is intellectual courage, the willingness to question everything, even the beliefs you've held your whole life. Most people are afraid to stand out, afraid to risk being wrong or ridiculed. But as Nietzsche observed, questioning the tribe risks ridicule, but it's the only way to escape being a predictable cog. Intellectual courage isn't just about having ideas. It's about acting on them, even if it means standing alone. You call out lies, you challenge the status quo, and you refuse to accept easy answers just because everyone else does. This is what makes you untouchable by groupthink. It's what gives you the freedom to think for yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. Each of these principles breaks a different kind of dependency that society tries to impose. Radical self-honesty keeps you from being deceived. Value independence keeps you from being controlled by shame or guilt. Emotional self-sufficiency keeps you from being manipulated by your own need for approval. Intellectual courage keeps you from being silenced. Together, they make you someone who can't be easily managed, predicted, or broken. But let's be clear, these aren't easy to master. They demand that you face uncomfortable truths about yourself and the world. They require you to risk rejection, to accept discomfort, and to build habits most people avoid. That's why so few ever reach real independence. Most settle for comfort, even if it means living by rules they never chose. But if you're willing to do the work, these principles can transform your life from the inside out. The real question is, how do you actually start? Independence isn't something you wake up with. It's something you build, one action at a time. The next step is figuring out what that looks like in your daily life. Building independence isn't about waiting for some dramatic life change. It's about everyday actions that slowly shift the way you see yourself and the world. The first step is to make reflection a habit, just as Marcus Aurelius did. He called it the discipline of desire. Each night, he sat alone and asked himself hard questions. What did I want today that I didn't need? This wasn't about guilt or self-punishment. It was about understanding the difference between real needs and fleeting wants, and seeing where those desires might be pulling him off course. Take 10 minutes each evening to write down your answers. What did you do well? Where did you fall short? What emotions shaped your choices? This isn't just journaling. It's psychological training, a way to spot the patterns that keep you dependent on outside approval. Most people today can't last more than a minute without reaching for their phone. Compare that to Marcus, who spent deliberate hours in solitude to strengthen his mind. If you want to break the cycle of dependency, start with small doses of real solitude. Set aside 5 or 10 minutes with no phone, no music, no distractions, just you and your thoughts. The first few times, you'll feel restless,